Hi, I'm Rix and I like video games. I like to play video games, I like to think about video games, and I like talking about video games. Why do I like games? I always felt like I had the answer to this question because it seemed pretty straightforward. A mixture of art made interactive, an often fantastic audiovisual experience with hopefully fun mechanics with which to engage, and in some cases, even good writing that can bring you interesting stories and dialogue that speak to your experiences. Claiming this is all there is to games, however, would be understanding the genre, because of course there are a lot of different ways in which games can be enjoyable, even good for us, from escapism to even therapeutic effects. What I'd like to talk about is not entirely different. It's an aspect of certain games that is undoubtedly significant for a lot of us. An experience that I initially only associated with the notoriously difficult Souls-like genre. Being rewarded for your work. Before we jump in, I'd like to make something clear. This is not research, not a deep dive. I'm not presenting unquestionable facts, I'm just talking about how I feel. I'm not saying this to avoid feedback or criticism. I simply hope that you can accept that these are my experiences and my thoughts on the topic. There is something really satisfying, and if you have lived a life similar to mine, also mostly unusual, about your efforts reliably paying off. When you face a hurdle in a video game, you keep trying, learning, improving, and eventually you will overcome adversity. It might not always be fair or a level playing field, but there are rules, and in the end, the work you put in matters. Unless you were born into a lot of privilege, you have probably realized by now that we don't live in a meritocracy. I'm not saying meritocracy is an objectively good thing, but it's definitely a step up from the systems in which we're forced to operate. Having worked for moronic billionaires whose rags to riches story starts with them inheriting vast amounts of money, bashed with bosses who don't really grasp what their job is, let alone yours, I have come to realize that what you do often matters very little. It's how you're perceived that counts. Perceived by people whose work ethic is comprised of insecurity, incompetence, and a complete lack of willingness to do better. Being judged not by the quality of your work, but the color of your skin, your gender, your sexuality, or your body type is absolutely devastating and can really take away your willingness to keep trying. Granted, I have only experienced discrimination based on my body type, which is probably the least rough out of the ones I mentioned, but I was still judged by my appearance and not my performance. Often toiling without breaks and managing a job meant for 2 people, I was called lazy by someone who spent the vast majority of their office hours eating, shopping, and browsing random internet pages. You see, fat people, you are lazy. The folks running out of breath after going up one flight of stairs will still call you out of shape, and reality will never change their minds. I recently beat Elden Ring. I made things hard for myself by starting a character with low attributes and almost no equipment. In Souls-like games, difficulty is not really a setting that would brand your experience easy or hard, or something in between. Rather, it's to do with how you play. Want to make things easier for yourself? Pick up a shield and learn parry timings. Even easier, use sorcery or summon other people or NPCs for fights. Find the Black Knight halberd in Dark Souls 1 and you'll never even have to learn the basic mechanics of the game. You see, difficulty is a really important part of these types of games. Even though as a knee-jerk reaction to the inane claim that difficulty is the only important part, some gamers started saying that the difficulty is the least interesting or important aspect. I suppose understanding the medium they enjoy is still too high difficulty for gamers. Get it? Because But I digress. I made things hard for myself because I enjoy overcoming challenges and getting my reward. Beating the game, no dumbass CEO stepped forward to claim that leaders are tall and have a BMI in the normal range, so my win doesn't really count. I beat the game, I got to be the winner, and I did it for myself, not for a brain-dead billionaire or slimy supervisors. In this world, my grind benefited me, and my reward wasn't taken from me due to ignorant stereotypes. I did all this with a broken controller as well as performance issues, and despite these problems, it was still more of an even play field than I have ever encountered in real life. Some games give you a lot of work to do. Sometimes this is to make the fruits of your labor all the more tasty, other times to try and get you to pay real money to bypass the slog. Now, this might ring familiar to some of you from the world of not video games. I remember looking at difficult to acquire items or hard to achieve goals in games in the past and thinking those were definitely not for me. Not because I wasn't willing to put in the work, but because it was so deeply ingrained in me that for me personally, drudgery can't yield results. Except in video games it can. Sure, there is some luck involved sometimes, but even random number generators have been more fair to me than close-minded employers. When I first tried Escape from Tarkov, the overwhelmingly complex first-person shooter/military simulator, I did not think I would ever accomplish much in it. Learning all those different areas, memorizing the value of items and what they are good for, precisely setting your movement speed, crouch height, lean distance, knowing where to go to loot, how to build workstations and other stuff in your hideout, learning to build and modify your equipment, which by the way you can lose if you die, unless you insure it, but even then you won't get it back if someone else takes it and oh no, I have to go to very specific locations out in the open and hide items for a task, and if I die before I do it, I have to acquire those items again before I retry and... What? Yet, here I am, the highest level I have ever been in the game. There are pseudo-seasonal vibes that research your progress, an almost completely built out hideout, often going out on raids in pretty high-end gear. I managed to be somewhat successful in a video game way more complex than any office job I have ever had. Guess what? I'm not stupid or lazy. I can manage most tasks that come my way. It's the system that is stupid. The system where the people that flourish are those whose only skill is to sell themselves to billionaires even dumber than them. Our desire to be recognized for what we do is normal, no matter how many participation trophy comments get thrown our way by people who never really had to work for anything. Because honestly, who else makes these comments? Thanks for the projection, you can sit back down. Next time you see someone play out an average life in The Sims, maybe consider that it's not goofy. It's the fantasy of being appreciated for your work. Also the fantasy of owning a house, etc., but let's not get into that now. Folks who spend hours upon hours farming in video games, doing the same monotonic tasks over and over might feel like they're inviting you for a comment about how they could just do an office job with the same or less energy. But they're not, because maybe they're not straight, white, tall, man or skinny enough to be appreciated and compensated. Work is not inherently bad. A lot of us strive to do work, but the systems in place will force us to generate more wealth for the wealthy instead of doing anything meaningful. And in these systems, you will only be recognized for your work if you look like your incompetent bosses or are desired by them. Not that that is a position anyone would want to be in. So yeah, I sometimes work in video games, because work in video games is fair, or at least it abides by its own rules. Sure, the characters I play in these games can very rarely look like me, but I guess that's a whole different topic and possibly too high of an expectation from an industry that can't even get black folks hair right. I want to be a dirty, deprived or wretched guy, climbing out of the mud and working hard to be strong enough to kill kings and gods, without having some guy come in at the end and tell me that I didn't actually kill God, it was that tall, mid-BMI outsider they just hired. Yeah. Well, you know, just follow me on Twitch, subscribe to my YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. I have a Bandcamp page. Yeah. Okay, love you, bye.
Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you'd like to, and if you're able to support us in creating more content, as well as taking care of our very sizable feline family, please consider donating to Align Left through Ko-fi. Link in the description. Thank you!